Back to Neil deGrasse Tyson and his critique of
So
Tesla.
he threw shit on he was like, well, Tesla stuff worked, but Tesla was never really respected and out there, and I guess he wanted me to support Bohr or Schringer or Feynman or any of those people. And I'm looking at the Feynman diagrams. I'm like, you made all these things up. You're basically doing the Mr. Spock thing. If you want to find the answer to something, then you cancel out all the possibilities, all other possibilities, and you root it down to one thing. So that means going through the whole universe to answer one question. And that's the problem with probability. That's the problem with Heisenberg uncertainty. That's the problem with Schrodinger. All of those were just these probabilities because they had taken the ether out. They forgot the electromagnetic wave. Mm-hmm. It had to have a medium in which it followed on. It had to have something in which it was moving on.
They don't exist in isolation.
No, they do not. And it cannot be the cause of its own action. An effect can never be the cause of the action. The chicken cannot come the egg cannot come before the chicken. The chicken has to be there first in order to lay it. It has to mate. And what Einstein left out was the equal and opposite of magnetism. So back to Neil deGrasse, when he wrote his response to my paper, and he said, if you have any other questions, you're going to have to see somebody else, and he wouldn't take my calls anymore. I was like, okay. So I wrote the book based off of those responses, and I reached out to another guy, Dr. David Tong.
But that would be very, very interesting that would be his take as a public educator, that he wouldn't want to talk to you anymore.
The reason I wanted to talk to him was because of his show, The Cosmos, that he was doing after that incredible guy, Carl Sagan did. Mm-hmm. The very first episode he had was talking about Giordano Bruno. Mm-hmm. And he said that Giordano Bruno was looking for that grand unified field equation, and maybe one day somebody is going to do it. And when they do it, it's going to change the world. And I'm like, dude, I've done it. I've got it here. He attacked it with such vitriol that I was like, oh, okay, maybe I need to walk away from this. Dr. David Tong from Cambridge, a professor at Cambridge, did a video on physics of the world, and he said it's all a lie. And he explained that there was these 16 fields, that everything that they had taught was this. And they gave the best understanding and interpretation that they had of it. But it was all a lie because they didn't understand how it worked. Why? Because the Michelson-Morley experiment from 1887, where they were trying to define the ether or the earth in this etheric space, problem was they kept with Newtonian laws, so they thought the ether didn't move. They thought it was still. But there was another guy, Larmor, that did it in early 1800s, and he went off of Thomas Young, who influenced the Fresnel lens, influenced Fresnel, came up with the Fresnel lens. But he talked about a moving ether that had opposing vortices. So I didn't learn all of this stuff until I was getting ready to have conversations with people, because I was looking, where has this work been done? But if you look at Giordano Bruno's work, it looks a lot like my stuff, but he still had straight lines, and I think he put those straight lines in there to appease the church.
Oh, wow.
So that he wouldn't get killed.
Oh, my God.
And they still killed him. They hung him upside down in 1600, the Catholic Church. 1599, hung him upside down in a stake and set him on fire, because he refused to recant that the God that they were talking about was not the true God of the universe. It was much larger than that. Their story went back 6,000 years. And there's other traditions and tribes around the world where their stories go back 200,000 years. And they made a lot more sense